Hello and welcome to the Outspoken Artist Special Edition Imaging 2024. I am here with Justin Benson. How are you, Justin?
I'm fantastic.
How's the mustache doing?
It's good. It's not a good mustache day for me, but it's pretty good.
What does that routine look like on a daily basis?
So it's a pretty easy routine. I take a little pomade, I go like this, twirl it up, and I call it a day.
When was the last time you didn't have a mustache?
2017.
Did you have one prior to that?
No, this is the first growing of a mustache, and I haven't been able to get rid of it.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you had one and then got rid of it, what was that like? But we're not there yet.
I don't think I'm ever going to do it. I mean, it's me now.
I know. I even put it on your description when I have my guest. Is like I put all these accolades and all these achievements, and like and he does have a killer mustache.
It carries me, honestly.
Is that why people recognize you at times at Aftershoot?
Absolutely. So with the tutorial videos, I'm in them. If I was just a regular guy, they wouldn't know me. But the mustache, they're like, oh, that someone just walked by and she's like, oh, I knew that mustache. I didn't know how.
I don't know who you are, but I know that.
Exactly.
That's great. Now your branding's on point because not only is it this, but last year when I was at Imaging, my first Imaging, I'm walking by this booth, and first of all, I'm at awe. I'm like, what the hell, and all this stuff. But I see this inflatable unicorn, and I think it was Edda that was in it or somebody, and then somebody with a space suit and whatnot, and I'm like, what in the hell did I get myself into? And it wasn't up until later that I came to meet you and your wife, Veronica, helping Kiati, and got to know how great you guys are. You guys are awesome, personality-wise, people-wise. Tell us a little bit about you. You're a photographer primarily specializing in weddings, correct?
Correct, yeah. So I'm a wedding photographer. I'm based in Connecticut. I actually started my career in the TV and film industry, so I worked on a bunch of really notable programs like Gossip Girl and things like that. And through that, I started taking a lot of photos in New York City, street photography, architecture, and those photos started to be, they started to request to put them in the TV show. And then they started asking me to, take photos and put them in magazines for different sets and things like that. And it kind of just grew from there. And then I got that, infamous phone call, like, hey, we don't have a photographer. I'm pregnant and I am getting married this weekend. And I was like, okay, let's try it. I love taking photos. Let's see how it goes. And it was instant success. I loved it. The photos were terrible, but I loved doing it. And I said, I want to be a wedding photographer. And that was it. So I went into wedding photography and I devoted myself to it from there. I've
heard and read reviews about your style, that you and your wife really get in there. Like, it's not just, I did weddings, and that was not, God bless the hearts of the people that I photograph. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't really know much back then. But you guys get in there and really get emotions out of people. And how do you go about doing that?
So honestly, a lot of the emotions that I'm getting are funny ones, and it's based on me making lots of inappropriate jokes. So if you hire me as a wedding photographer, you are going to get pretty raunchy things. I am known for saying, look in my hole. So the first thing I do with bridal parties is I line them up, I take a photo, I have them, everyone's awkward looking at me, and I say, look in my hole, and everybody loves it. It opens up the worms to feeling comfortable, relaxed, and, sometimes a little bit violated, but they love it, and it brings out a lot of raw, fun emotions, so.
What's a memorable wedding story that you can tell us that just sticks out there as either like, wow, I can't believe that happened?
Whoa. Now you're really putting me on the spot, huh? Can I pass? I don't even know if I have one. My wedding photography, I'm always cool, calm, and collected. All right, I have one for you. So I had a wedding where the rainstorms came in, and it was getting super crazy. I took some really cool photos of rain clouds and everything, bride in front of all of it. It was beautiful. Then we got to the ceremony, did the ceremony, and the groom had surprised the bride with a horse and carriage ride. Now, we were at a golf course that had wooden bridges that were very, up and down wooden bridges. So they hopped in this horse and carriage post-wedding. I followed them out. I started taking pictures of them in their horse and carriage, and then they got stuck. And they were stuck for 35 minutes because the horse they had their shoes on, they couldn't grip the wood, it was uphill, they were just stuck. We were pushing them, trying to get them back, and I still had to produce the same work I was expected to produce, but I only had 12 minutes to do it. I had to do bridal party, family, and bride and groom in 12 minutes. And, again, lots of illicit, inappropriate jokes, and it got us from start to finish, and it worked. It wasn't I wish I had more time, of course, but we made it happen, so.
Did the wedding work that you did, is that what led to the progression of what is now known as Aftershoot?
Absolutely. So, for me, culling was the thing that I despised the most. That's why Veronica joined the business, because I didn't want to cull anymore. So I was like, hey, if I make her my second shooter, she'll have to cull, right? So that's where we kind of started with that. And so she started shooting with me. And then it wasn't until 2019, I saw somebody post in a Facebook group, and they're like, hey, there's this guy, he wants to talk about the potential of using like technology to help people cull. And I was like, I'm in. Whatever it takes. So I reached out to him on Instagram. His name's Harshit. He's the founder of Aftershoot. So reached out to him, went back and forth on some messages, had some Zoom calls, didn't talk to him for a little while. And he came back later with Aftershoot, first version of Aftershoot. It was bad. Nobody, he sent it to 10 people. All right, so he sent it to 10 people, or 50 people. 40 people didn't reply, 10 replied, and all 10 that replied were basically like, hey, you should give up. Like, there's no way this is ever gonna work. It's not feasible. And I was the one who wrote like a 500-page email, like the longest email in history, that said like, we can fix this. Here's how we fix it. Let's do this, do that, and this is what a photographer needs. And then we took it, and I've been a part of it ever since.
Tell me, how did it feel when you guys launched Aftershoot and then you had those first early adopters? How did that make you feel?
It was incredible, right? Like it was one of those things. I knew it was possible. I didn't know how well people would adopt to it, right? Because we're all, as creatives, we're always like, oh, I don't know if I can trust AI. I don't know if I can be involved in it. Like letting AI select photos for me, that's crazy. So I wasn't sure how well it would stick early on, but there was people from the beginning who were like, this just changed my life. This made my whole life easier. And of course, with that, there was people who were like, yeah, it's not quite there yet. Maybe I'll come back in a year. But we just kept at it and kept taking that feedback and developing it. So it was the most rewarding thing to know that we helped people. That's all it is. I mean, I'm a photographer. I'm overwhelmed. I have too much work going on. So I know how difficult it is to stay on top of those things. So to be able to say, yes, I really did save time. I'm really helping people save time. That's incredible.
From the adoption period to the multiple releases since then, where's Aftershoot today? Where does it stand? How many photos have you processed?
So Aftershoot as a company, we've processed over 8 billion photos. So 8 billion 8 billion images have run through our systems. Tons of users have come in and been able to adopt and adjust to it. We started with a very simple version, right? And how much it's changed and how much we've grown, the releases that we've come up. I mean, we didn't have editing before. Now we have AI editing. We were the first ones to do like Capture One support for editing. First ones to do a lot of the culling things that we've done. First ones to be able to actually put XMP edits applied to images. So now we're able to open them in Photoshop. So we've kind of just always been pushing the barrier of what's possible with technology. So every time a release comes out, it's like, oh, we just changed it again, right? It's a game-changing event again. So
how has the experience of going from, you still do photography, but incorporating, you have photography and now software, being part of a software company, how's that been for you?
That was probably the hardest transition, right? I mean, it was natural because it was taking what I know about photography and implementing it into a software company, but it's also very different because there's so much stuff that's over my head. I mean, I go to India with the development team, a couple times a year, and I sit down and I just look over their shoulders just to see, like, what do they do, right? Well, what is this all about? And I took a picture of some of the math equations that these guys are looking at and working with and for some of these algorithms. And I don't even know what the symbols are in the math equation, right? Like it's something on another level, and the amount of skill and intelligence the guys have to be able to take like my thoughts and implement them into an application is wild. So it was a huge adjustment. I still don't know what they're talking about half the time, right? Like they're talking like worlds over my head, but I've quickly adopted and adapted and been able to kind of pick up on the different things.
That's fantastic. In terms of imaging, since we're here and people are behind us checking out the show or coming out of the show, how has imaging been for you? How's that experience been?
Imaging is awesome. So I get to do a ton of conferences. I go all over the world, kind of visiting these things. And imaging is one that's always a cool one to be at. It's really big. It's really welcoming. There's not, there's no clicks or anything like that. It's very much so like anyone's an open book and you can go talk to them and connect with them. So definitely a really cool conference to be at.
Can you tell me Do you have any stories, convention stories in this case, not so much photography stories, that also stick out in your mind as memorable?
Oh man, you love putting me on the spot here, huh?
Don't worry, I'll cut it short, so that way I go straight to it.
Yeah, that's good. Let me think about this. Convention stories. Oh, all right, I got a great one. Oh, this is the great one. Oh, I love you.
All right, man.
Okay, so. So one of the coolest stories that I think I have, she's currently an ambassador for Aftershoot, but her name was Rosa, and I found her in a Starbucks, and she was just at WPPI. She was in a Starbucks. She was like sitting by herself crying, and I was like, this is not good. But I could tell that she was a photographer. Something spoke to me that she was like, and she didn't speak any English, and like I speak Spanish, so a little bit, enough Spanish to get by. So I went up to her, I asked her some questions, kind of saying what happened. It turns out her luggage got lost, so her dress her model didn't have a dress. Her camera equipment was lost in the luggage. She had nothing. She had the shirt on her back, and that was it. And she'd flown in from Spain. So I was like, okay, let's see what we can do to like help you out. So we called in everybody we knew that had something. So we called in like So Trendy Dresses. They borrowed a dress. I gave her my camera. I gave her an Aftershoot shirt and said, hey, I know it's not like the most stylish thing, but like at least you'll have a clean shirt and you're good to go. We got her up and running, and she was able to teach her class. But it was such a cool thing to be able to just, again, find somebody and unite all of the really cool people in this industry together to help her, because she had her class. Like her class was that afternoon.
Right.
That was 10 a.m. Her class was at 1 p.m. So we had 2 hours to like put this together, and her class went off without a hitch. So it was a really cool experience to be able to help her and do what we could with it. So
I have a feeling a lot of the vendors here say and talk about how vendors help each other out if they're in a bike, because this is not easy.
no,
Hosting an expo is not just putting on a show. It takes months and months and months of strategic planning, and that's another facet of the business, that you have software, photography, and now doing expo.
yeah, expos are easy for me. I kind of just show up and I have to think a little bit about what we have to do, but you forget something every time, right? I mean, it's a guaranteed thing. I think we showed up this time and we didn't have scissors or didn't have tape. So it's like, okay, well, we got to go borrow them and find somebody. Actually, one of our current employees, she was an employee for an album company before, and she was missing a pen. She didn't have a pen, so I borrowed her my pen, and this was in WPPI 2021. And then when we hired her, eventually she actually brought she bought me a new one, but because she took the pen, and I was like, whatever, it was my favorite pen, but it's okay. It had like a level and a measuring tape on it. It was awesome. And I was super sad that I never got it back, but it was okay. That's part of what we do as vendors, right? We help each other out. But she actually went and found the pen and brought it back to me once we hired her.
That's great. That's really great. She didn't forget. Forget. Do you have any weird or unusual hobbies that a lot of people may not know about you, Justin?
Besides amazing mustache care, I would say probably, I love snowboarding, I love rollerblading, I'm jumping around and doing crazy things. That's, that's my exercise. I don't do much exercise. But other than that, yeah, it was photography, those two, and yeah, I pretend like I play the guitar. I'm not good at it, but I pretend like I play it.
Maybe I'll segue into this one. If you can become an expert instantly at something, what would that be?
If I could be an expert at something instantly, I would probably, let's go with guitar. I think that's a good one. I mean, I have fun playing it. It's nice to make some music, but yeah.
If you have any advice for anybody coming to this, as people are coming out behind us, what is one advice of someone that is on the edge of like, should I go, should I not go? What would you say?
Definitely go, right? If you have the opportunity to attend a conference, you can learn so much from these things. I mean, if you're interested in growing as a photographer, take the time, find the right speakers, right? Because not everyone's going to be a good fit for you. You want to make sure that, that the speaker actually has like an active business and can really relate to you, because these things change, right? There's legacy speakers, people who are known in this industry, but they may not run a photography business anymore. So you want to make sure that you're looking for somebody that, if you want to learn lighting, make sure you find the person who lights absolutely amazing. If you want to learn about business, make sure you're looking at somebody who's got a huge successful business right now, post-COVID, right? Because COVID changed a lot of things in how we market and how we run our businesses. So you got to look at all these things. But other than that, I mean, the value you can gain from these things is impressive. I had never been until we started Aftershoot, and I wish I had gone to conferences before that, right? There's so much you can gain, so much networking, so many people you can communicate with, things you could learn. My business would be 10 times further ahead of where it was had I known about these beforehand.
What's on the horizon, whether for your own photography or even for Aftershoot for 2024?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, my own photography, it's I don't want to say we're sunsetting it, but it's I'll always still photograph weddings. I love photographing weddings, but I just can't take on as many because I have a full-time job now. I kind of went backwards. Most people leave their full-time job to, slowly but surely start their wedding photography business, and I'm now going the opposite direction. That's how I started, and now I'm going the opposite way. I'm leaving my photography business, reducing the amount of weddings to try and get back more time to Aftershoot. But for Aftershoot, 2024 is going to be a year that you should be involved, right? This is absolutely, we're cool. It's cool because as Aftershoot, we get to actually shape the future, right? So as an Aftershoot user, you subscribe, and then you get to tell us what you want. You say, hey, I really wish the AI could do this, or I wish it interpreted things this way, or I wish we could handle it like this. When you put all those things together, we actually read that. We sit down, we look, we figure out, is this feasible? Do enough people need this feature? Can we implement it quickly? If it's not quick, how valuable is it? So you can actually shape the future of AI in the photography space by being involved at Aftershoot. And I'll tell you, the next 6 months, Aftershoot's gonna be unrecognizable. I mean, I'm showing off a release now that's not public yet, but it is the first one to be able to apply edits in Photoshop. I mean, we're changing the landscape constantly every month. So
how was the feedback on those demos?
So a couple people, their jaws dropped. People say, oh, the jaw dropped. They literally jaw dropped. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Especially our past users, right? Because they were used to having to cull, having to edit, or having to cull, bring their images into Lightroom, then bring it back to Aftershoot, edit it, and then go back to Lightroom to review, or export to Photoshop, etc. They're like, oh, I can just click cull and then click edit and then open it up in any Adobe program that I want. That's unheard of. So, yeah, jaw dropping, game changer was said a lot too.
That's awesome. Now, for people to find your work or in Aftershoot, where would they go?
Yeah, so if you want to see a boring old wedding photographer, I'm at J Benson Photography on Instagram. If you want to find a really awesome, amazing AI culling and editing company, we're at Aftershoot Co. on Instagram.
Nice. And what kind of pomade do you use?
It's Walmart brand pomade.
Oh, yeah?
It's not. Yeah, I don't think it's a brand name.
Okay.
Just any pomade.
I used to use something Bigelow for when I used to have a longer beard.
Well, you could definitely have some. I mean, there's like people who do wax and all sorts of stuff, and I'm like, hey, what can I put on my face? That's free or cheap. Let's do it.
Some coconut oil in there.
Yeah.
Do all that.
I mean, I've never tried it. Maybe I will.
Any questions that you think I should have asked that I might have forgotten, Justin?
No, I think those are great questions. That was fantastic.
Do you have any questions for me?
Who are you?
I am the outspoken artist. Photographer, friend.
Yeah.
Just somebody out there trying to showcase people that are doing great things. And because there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of big names in the photography space. And I just want to show that people are just people at the end. And if you just approach them, talk to them, and get to know them a little bit, they're perfectly fine.
Where did your inspiration for the blog come from?
Imaging. I've been asked this question, ironically enough, by a lot
of the podcast, yeah.
By most of the guests, why I started this, and it's because of imaging. Because once I started meeting people, and I went to that event that Rick said, "Hey, let's help Kiati photograph this couple, you and your wife," and then I met Ed, I met this one, I met that one, I met Anthony, and you guys were great. And I met other people, and I went home and. As I was trying to figure out what kind of content I wanted to create, I was doing Excel tutorials, and it was okay. I'm good at it, but I didn't care for it. Then I realized, man, I love these people, man. These people are great. I wish other people could see what I saw, and that was it. I decided I'm going to make something to showcase other people. And I interviewed the people that I met first within imaging and conventions, and then from there talked to other people, and now I'm here talking to, I think, it's going to be like 12 different artists, man.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I know a lot of the people you're speaking to, and you picked a heck of a bunch. So there's this industry is full of a lot of really amazing people, and a lot of the most amazing ones you don't really hear about either, right? Like they don't walk around with some big persona like, oh, I'm the best. Like I know you had Rick on. Rick is one of like my dearest people that I know. He's so sweet and kind and gentle-hearted, and he's not someone that you would ever go like, oh yeah, that's like the best dude I've ever met. But once you meet him, you're like, yeah, that's the best dude you'll ever meet.
Yeah, talented.
talented.
Great human being and talented.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and his wife Kayla will be on my show too.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
She's
She's
wonder.
amazing too.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, like, I feel embarrassed to be anywhere. They're just too good.
Well, Justin,
Cool.
man, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.